there's a lot of different layers of culture, right? There's the community you grew up in, your family culture, religious culture, right? The country that you're from. I mean, there's so many different influences on your cultural development of your communication habits. The one that probably has the biggest overall influence is the family one, right? And so when you think about it, we grow up with family dynamics that we carry into the workplace, right? Great example, family with 6 kids. At the dinner table, they're all competing for attention, so they all interrupt each other.
Right.
And then they get into the workplace, and when they're competing for attention, they're interrupting others and they're pissing other people off, right? It may have worked in the family, but it's not going to work in the workplace. And so the key is starting to become aware of what are the habits that I have currently. And by the way, some of those habits will be really powerful and helpful in your career. Some of the habits will be really ineffective and hurt your success. And so it's about developing an awareness of what your habits are, leveraging the ones that are strengths and minimizing the ones that are weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you a strength of mine. When I was growing up, my mother did not let me lie about anything, right? And there's a story in the book where I talk about this, where I forged a letter and basically, tried to get into school, and they had already called my mom, and she said, yeah, he should be at school, right? And so I got into the principal's office, and basically he said, who wrote this letter? And I was like, I did. And he said, why? He says, because my mom was sleeping and I was running late, and so I told him the truth.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I had a couple incidents like that with this particular vice principal. One of them was going down to the shore with my friends, and my mom wouldn't lie for me. So she wrote a note and basically said, Michael was at the shore enjoying himself with his friends. And he's like, this isn't an acceptable excuse. I'm like, that's the only excuse I have.
That's the only, yeah.
But I said, but my parents won't lie for me. So I'm giving you the truth. And you know that I was down there with other people and their parents did lie for them.
Right.
So if you have to hold me accountable for that, I'll accept it.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. He did end up letting me off on that one because he thought it was wrong. But at the same time, when I graduated, he came back and he pulled me aside and he said, I want you to know the one thing I always appreciate about you is you owned up to when you made mistakes or when you did something dumb. And most other students just lied to my face when those situations happen. So thank you for being honest. But between my mother's influence on me and him reinforcing that was a good thing to do, I go into the workplace. When I make a mistake, I say, I screwed up.
Right.
Because early in my life, I had influences and feedback that made me realize it's important to own your mistakes and just deal with the consequences of them. And so, that's one example of a good habit. The other side of that is the interrupting, because I learned because my family used to do that. Or it could be, people treat people differently based on how they watch their parents interacting.
Right.
So many
conflict avoidance.
Yes. If you had seen and observed really bad conflicts growing up, you get in the workplace, you might be afraid of conflict.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a personality trait, but it is a culturally learned communication thing. So it may be counter to what your personality needs are. If you're results driven, you may want to be direct about things, but if you had a life experience that scared you to do that, then you may not be doing it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's kind of the cultural, that's why it's so important for us to become really aware of the habits we've developed, the good ones and the bad ones, and then learning to leverage the good ones in more situations and learning to minimize the ones that aren't. And the book gives lots of activities. It gives you a chance to do checklists of the most common habits I've seen from executives over the last 20 years. And then you can identify right next to it different ways to work on reducing those habits.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of what I tried to do.
What are